that the Clutch players we're talking about in that video. Into the draft, Renekton and Pantheon are banned away.
Yeah, no surprise there. I'm going to be really interested to see if Rumble or Kiana, those are kind of the Clutch Gaming calling cards, are going to be left up here by SKT. We have actually seen that composition run a couple times at Worlds thus far, but not yet by Clutch.
I wonder how high Xayah/Rakan priority are for both these teams. With the Morgana being taken off the board, this suggests to me that Clutch could be looking for an early Rakan, or maybe they go for the Xayah in the hopes that SK Telecom will take the Rakan. I'm not sure how deep they're thinking into the draft, but I know that Morgana is a very obnoxious champion, especially for many supports in the current meta.
I can certainly tell you for Clutch, Xayah Rakan is always incredibly high priority. Most played for both of
but Kiana got left open.
Kiana is up, so that's going to be an insta grab here. And it should be going to Damonte. We have not seen Lyra play it, throughout the playoff run or here at Worlds. Certainly a possibility to be flexed, but definitely expecting to get a little bit of Tanner time.
Are we really going to get to see?
I don't think we're going to go. Oh, okay, wow, let's go.
So, do we anticipate Kiana versus Yasuo mid?
No, right now I'm going to say that this is a Yasuo Gragas bot lane. For the time
interesting.
Bear in mind, Trevor and I are from Europe, and that's where it most commonly goes for a team like G2 Esports. Mid-jungle, I know over in the LCK they are very big fans of it. Clid is a very well-known Gragas player, and Faker obviously well-known for pretty much any champion that he plays. And with the Akali locked in, you can still see there's a lot of flexibility still left in this draft.
Yeah, it's very interesting because Teddy, has not played Yasuo at all throughout summer or at Worlds thus far. So it would surprise me a little bit if it was going down to him in effort. I'm definitely expecting this to be Clid and Faker. So much of SKT's success has been around this 2v2 playing incredibly well. When we see this combo in the LCS, it's almost always jungle mid as well. And it just has so much power, especially post 6. Such easy setup for guaranteed ultimate. It feels like it's almost unavoidable to die at least once or twice to that.
Well, I have to give some congratulations to both of my analysts. Various for calling out the Morgana champion that was banned in first drop. The Xayah Rakan high priority for Clutch absolutely coming true. Now the question is, where do they turn their attention to next? With a Talia banned away, this also signals to us SK Telecom believe that Kiana is going to Damonte as they're starting to remove champions from that jungle pool.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see if Lyra actually goes back to Skarner, because that was kind of his bread and butter in NA. He has not yet brought it out here in the World's group stage, and when they are sort of struggling here, I wouldn't mind seeing them just go back to that pure comfort.
One of the things that SK Telecom are doing right now is actually taking AP options off the board. With Elise already gone in the first rotation and Talia now gone, they're really narrowing down the AP champion pools that are available so that Clutch don't have that damage diversification.
Is it time for Echo to pop
off?
off?
It could be.
Silas is open and available as well. The Skarner, again, one of those signature picks that we were talking about earlier, now removed from the pool. So it is limiting those AP options, and I'm just trying to figure out where else it could come from.
Yeah, Silas wouldn't shock me. That was a 3-way flex for Clutch in NA, so certainly something that they could go towards. I think there's some pretty strong ultimates to steal here as well. You can set up for your own ultimate with your chain. That's actually a little knock-up with the Yasuo. Obviously, Gragas as well as Akali, great ultimates to steal, as we've seen so many times throughout competitive for the Silas. So certainly is a possibility there. And with Huni, you always know that Huni could be playing something like Cassio top or some sort of crazy pick.
So there it is. The Gragas is going into support with the Lee Sin lock-in. That's going to be going into the hands of Clid. Definitely setting up for the Yasuo Gragas bot lane. That suggests to me that Akali is likely going to go into the top lane, but I know that she can have a pretty favorable matchup into the Kiana. When we see like damage spread, SK Telecom are pretty healthy for the time being, and Clutch, they need to get some AP somewhere in their composition. They could consider the Echo jungle if they wanted to try and get it out, but they could also go for the Vladimir in the top side of the map.
Yeah, so Vladimir top here for Huni, certainly giving them a lot of scaling, a lot of kind of team fight and wombo combo power there with the engage they already have here from both Rakan as well as that Kiana. And we know the damage amp from Vladimir is going to be big, both for Kiana and Xayah, especially when they have all of this kind of AoE damage that they can put out.
I wonder if they consider a Jarvan right now. No, okay. Going for a little bit more of the team fight angle as you were talking about, Azael. I know that Clutch Gaming, one of the big ways in which they won versus Team Liquid during the playoffs was just constantly forcing fights in the mid game. And I think that what is great about Sejuani is you can just throw that ultimate out. There's plenty of follow-up with the Kiana and Rakan as well. So it's very easy for Clutch to actually start these fights off.
Yeah, it certainly is, and anytime you have Sejuani as alongside, melee solo laner, you can actually set up for that Sejuani passive, proccing that out pretty quickly. The root from Kiana followed up by a knockup from Sejuani, followed up by the E-stun there as well, so there is potential for some pretty strong lockdown.
So we're going to be getting to see Teddy's Yasuo and Faker's Akali. Still very excited to see them both on these champions, but as we were saying earlier, the Yasuo Gragas bot lane is a bit of a European special, something that G2 consistently get banned away from them, and it is very obnoxious in the laning phase. You have a lot of all-in power, and you don't even need to be level 6. Around the level 3, level 4 mark, you can just look to go for these all-ins, especially if your jungler isn't playing around your side of the map. But SKT, they have pressure up towards the top side. I believe that in the early laning phase, Faker should be able to gain pressure as well, and only the bot side should struggle for the first few levels, but I think that'll get better and better as the levels come through. So I feel like across the board, SKT have very strong laners.
They certainly do. One concern I have for them is, though Akali has a lot of burst, if Sejuani gets to the later stages, builds up a lot of armor, most of their consistent damage is actually physical here between the Yasuo as well as that Aatrox, so Sejuani could be difficult to deal with, and I also really want to see how Teddy executes on this, because if the info I have here is right, this is his first competitive play on Yasuo.
And welcome back to Worlds 2019 as Clutch Gaming are taking on SK Telecom T1. We were just talking about the team compositions before we went into the video. And Azel, you were touching on some expectations around what Lyra could do if we were to get to the later stages of the game. I think we have a momentary pause. So, Vedius, when we zoom out, and we only have team comps to talk about, what do you like to see these teams do over the next few minutes? You've already alluded to sort of top and mid having some, pushing lanes in favor of SKT. So do they just play around that? Or?
So I think a very early game, I don't think CG have a huge amount of options. I think that once Demonte gets level 3, you can consider looking for a gank mid, but Akali, the moment she has a Shroud, very difficult to play around. Your best bet is to try and attack the bot lane before it has an opportunity to come online. You will have a lot of push, and what I would imagine is that Lyra will actually start on his top side jungle, he will pass towards bot, and he will allow Cody-Sun and Vulcan to get a hard push in bot so that they can get the wave to bounce back. And that can force the Yasuo and Gragas into an awkward situation for then a repeat gank later on from Lyra. So I want to see him focus his attention more towards the bot side of the map during the early stages of play.
Yeah, I really tend to agree, but that also is going to put Huni in a pretty tough spot, right? Huni is then going to be in a losing matchup, going to be getting pushed in, and there is always the potential of that early game Vladimir being dove by a combo such as that Aatrox and Lee Sin.
I feel, though, that Vladimir is one of those champions that gets harder to dive the moment he does have his pool up unavailable, and I think that the problem that CG is going to encounter is that because SKT have such strong lanes across the side of the map, whatever lane they try to play through, there's a real risk of it being countered. But on top of that, they're guaranteed to lose something on the other side of the map. So it's important that CG, whatever side of the map they choose to play through, which in my opinion should be the bot side, they really do net some advantages because the lanes are very in favor of SKT early on.
I keep an eye on the decision making. We can reevaluate what Clutch decide as we eventually get into game. I am hearing from a production team that the players are pausing just to double check some of the specific settings, and we'll keep you updated as I get more information.
Yeah, Huni is just having a little bit of a keyboard issue, so he's trying to get that sorted out, and certainly will be hopefully getting back into the game here pretty quickly. But it is going to be, I think, an extremely interesting game, right? People think a lot about SKT, as kind of this slow team. This team likes to play around very standard marksman picks for Teddy. That is kind of his bread and butter, and it's going to be interesting to see really how they they perform, not only just specifically individually with him playing the Yasuo, because he hasn't played it in competitive, I had that confirmed, but also it changes how the rest of the map has to play, right? And this is something that we hear a lot of teams talk about, where you'll talk to a pro and they say, yeah, I can play the pick, but we can't play around it. Because all of a sudden, when you lose that ranged marksman, the team fights have to be played out completely differently.
Now, I would say that expectation, the fear of a team like SKT being unable to adapt to that style is somewhat lowered.
Oh yeah, I mean,
in my mind.
I agree completely, right? You know, I'm not saying he can't play it. I'm just excited to see how well he can, because if they can showcase this sort of a style, you also then are looking at that as another strength, another thing that these other teams have to worry about. Because one of the big reasons people are looking at G2 and saying they're the best in the tournament right now is they have showcased multiple different styles, and this would be a step in the direction of increasing your flexibility.
It would be a statement game after the first half of groups concludes that then makes you question, do I need to ban Yasuo?
Yeah.
Based on the performance that we're going to see. Thank you for your patience as we load back onto Summoner's Rift for Clutch Gaming, taking on SK Telecom. My eyes are going to be on Lyra, and I mentioned it beforehand. Just hearing Demonte talking a little bit in that pre-video about showing up on the world stage and, you know, trying to win those 1v1s and 2v2s. Well, Sejuani Kiana against Lee Sin Akali. This is going to be interesting to watch, and I will review it later in the game.
I'm a big fan of melee champions being paired up with the Sejuani. Earlier in the year, we saw Camille Sejuani coming out as a pretty popular duo, just because of how easy it is to stack up that Sejuani passive. And I do think that Kiana versus Akali can be a pretty big skill matchup, but I naturally just give the advantage to Akali at the early levels, especially against Kiana, because she relies on having her W and Q combo in order to be able to set up any kind of plays.
Small engage there from Vulcan onto Effort, but nothing really following there on. And the wave, as it stands, Teddy and Effort seem to be pushing a little further forward.
I want to draw attention to the early jungle pathing that we actually saw. You'll notice that what happened is that Clid started on his red, he ward hopped over the wall, and then he snuck into blue, meaning he's been able to create a split map, and because of the pressure that he has in mids, he's likely not going to be contested by the enemy mid laner either. This is going to put the Sejuani behind, as Lyra chose to start on the bot side of the map and do a full clear. This will give him level 3, and he could look to play around the bot side still, but SKT demonstrating great use of early vision to understand what Lyra is up to in the early game.
Thankfully for Clutch, they do actually spot out Clid up on that top side of the map over by the Krug. So we'll see if this actually gives the information that Lyra needs to try to punish on the bot side. And he's actually looking for a gank, and their ward has just expired here for SKT.
There's the knock up onto Teddy. The body slam comes out from Effort. The feathers fly forward, and nothing further follows up.
And this is what we wanted to see. Notice that Cody-san and Vulcan didn't hard push. They actually let Teddy and Effort get the push in. They arrived late because they were helping Lyra start off on his red, which means that they were overextended in the lane. Jungle was topside, but now Lyra, he's overstayed in the river.
He has indeed. Flash is available. Arctic Assault 2, and very easy to escape. It'll just be the Rift Scuttler picked up for SKT.
This is honestly just a beautiful early game here from SKT. They're able to avoid the gank. You can see it's now going to be a 3 buff here for them. They've also grabbed this bottom side scuttle to protect their bottom lane that was pushing and playing somewhat aggressively now that their ward has expired. And we're going to have Lyra walk all the way across to the other side of the map, which is going to kind of put them behind the clock a little bit, so to speak, and not really have any options as far as ganking on that top side.
I do like that he went straight to the Krugs, though, because it does guarantee at least one of them so that he doesn't end up losing both. But in terms of Clid's pathing, he's feeling very comfortable right now. He's sitting at level 3, likely going to be getting level 4 very soon. He can make his way back up towards topside, and as Azale was saying in the draft, the potential for a Vlad dive is very real. A wave is going to start stacking up towards the top side of the map, and Clid can put himself in a position to be there ready to attack Huni.
Well, I just want to call out, Vedius, you did say that you were hoping to see Lyra play bot. He did. One thing I noticed a moment or two ago as well, Huni's running the Klepto Vlad, so learning a little bit from the Nuggery school of Vladimir. And now Clid, he's decided to come to this bottom lane. That's a fantastic body slam. Flash and heal used from Cody-san. And Clid's just going to ward hop away to safety.
Here comes Lyra, though, and Clid may be able to get collapsed on by Vulcan.
All right, there's the knock-up. Not going to land, actually, because Clid is able to flash away.
Honestly, all things happening there, that's going to be positive for Clutch. That's 3 summoners to 2. It's just, can you punish Cody-san for missing his? Teddy now could be in some trouble.
Could be indeed. The Arctic Assault has come in already. Now the dashes are going forward. Lyra's been exhausted. He's forced to flash. That's a very good Feather Storm. Or Feathers coming back. Well, the Faker! He completed the teleport and flies forward. Titan is not done yet. A level 5 Huni. He's come in. Vulcan takes some shurikens to the face and he's running for his life. Huni is blown up, donating another kill to SK Telecom, and they're 1,000 gold up.
That was a horrible teleport. It was so late. He's not even 6. What are you going to accomplish with that? And now not only does Huni do another kill on that bottom side, he's kind of going to throw his own lane.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's called Faker Playmaker for a reason. Beautiful teleport down into the bot lane the moment Clutch arrive. Notice that they've caught Teddy out of position. He's a little overextended. Jungler isn't here to help. But now 3 members are over the halfway mark in this lane, meaning there's plenty of time for him to TP in. Lyra holds onto his flash for a little while. Faker's able to land the E, and then he lands the passive auto, flashes away from the knockup from the Rakan, and gets away with his life on top of a kill. And then you see this very late TP in from Huni where I don't think he was ever going to get anything off the back of that.
It's almost like one of those comedy videos where it's like your laner versus my laner, you know, like your laner TPs, my laner TPs.
And where it leaves us is 1,000 gold advantage to SKT. Teddy and Effort have had a lot of action in their lane already. Both of them 0-0-2. And at least as far as the combining the engages and the tools, definitely look very comfortable on this duo, despite it being Teddy's first ever Yasuo.
Now, what's important to recognize is what this means. Because remember, we talked about how SKT have very strong laners. And in the bot lane, especially once they hit level 6, the all-in power of Gragas and Yasuo is very potent. So CG can't afford to fall behind in the early game. And due to this overforce in the bot side of the map and Faker finding 2 kills, it's now a lot harder for CG to control the early game, which means SKT is in a power position to start snowballing with this lead that they have.
I agree, and it's also really difficult now for Damonte because so much of your early game power with this lethality buy is negated by the Seekers, right? You know, all this additional gold is funneled into Faker there, and he is kind of now ahead of the curve, can grab this luxury item of the Seekers, and now go straight towards that Gunblade, and it should still be quite a good timing.
Now, it's not all doom and gloom for Clutch Gaming, of course. There are scaling elements to their composition. I feel that even though Damonte is playing a champion that is AD, her team fight value in the mid to late game is just can never afford to be underestimated, and you can still one-shot a lot of squishy targets if you're able to catch them off guard. So Clutch Gaming still have that team fight avenue available to them. It's just that due to the lead that SKT currently has, it may be harder and more delayed before Clutch can get to that point.
Yeah, Huni also sitting even on farm despite actually TPing away from his lane is pretty nice. But here comes Clid, and he is 6, looking for a kill on bot side.
Oh, very nicely done. Cody-san gets caught out, takes some damage before the Feather Storm buys some time. Just not enough DPS. If you look at itemization, needs a little bit more build up there before they can blow him up.
Yeah, and that was really just a nice wind wall as Huni maybe getting jumped on.
All right, Huni's in trouble. World Ender is easily enough for Khan to pick up the solo kill. I mean, he just hit everything. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, Huni had to flash the 3rd Q, right? You know, he flashed after that it already landed, so the damage was there. Expends the flash, but it is too late, and he does go down. And, you know, bad goes to worse as SKT grabs the Infernal. And this is a 5-person damage comp essentially here, right? You know, even the Gragas is going to be building AP. Every single member of SKT will get a lot out of that Infernal.
I mean, I believe there was an interview with Khan that said that he wanted to remind Huni of his place and kick his teeth in, and definitely not a great start to the laning phase as Huni, he's just trying to use the...
Khan, this is a fantastic
Yeah,
start.
I mean, yeah. And I just think that Huni should have just flashed earlier. He should have flashed the moment he recognized that he could not get out of the E landing from Khan. Just no respect being shown to his lane opposition.
Yeah, watching that back again, the timing was actually so tight on hitting that 3rd Q out of the pool, so Huni may have actually judged that the 3rd Q would go into the pool instead of actually landing perfectly out of it. So really well timed there by Khan, and credit to him for getting an advantage on that top side.
Well, read into this what you will, viewers at home, but Huni actually has a pretty successful record on the international stage, despite just getting solo killed. We're playing with Fnatic 11-11, SKT 25-11, Clutch Gaming so far 6-4. But he really is kind of the difference maker, the danger man when you look at Clutch and whether they're going to win or lose.
And he has been for a lot of his teams, right? And I think it's so cool to see this guy who has succeeded in 3 major regions, made it to Worlds on teams that were oftentimes about his crazy playstyles. And that is why I think he has become such a fan favorite and such a fun player to watch.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And Right now, he's being relegated towards the bot side of the map. He doesn't have his teleport, but it will be available soon. Given that it's 10 minutes, Clutch have decided to go for the swap, try and get out of this 2 versus 2, but also set up for the Herald. And I think that once they complete their first item, they could consider going for a fight. Because... oh, bit of a skirmish in mid, but because Faker has delayed his Gunblade, it means that Akali, even with the gold lead, is not going to be as potent without that item. So I can see a window where Clutch could consider going for a fight this early on to try and reclaim control.
Yeah, and they may actually look for it with Huni roaming up, because if he doesn't actually walk all the way up, they can't even challenge, right? Khan has TP advantage still, Huni not quite having his teleport, so Huni is just running up to mid lane and trying to be there as they are starting this out to look for a potential 5v5, and this could be something that really does decide a lot of this game.
Watch Damonte. He's waiting in the wings. Teleport is now coming down from Khan. Supreme display of talent goes out. Riptail's not dead just yet.
Here's Khan!
It's on the board, but it's a trade of 1-for-1. The Featherstorm goes out with the Blade Caller, cannot get called back. Lyra forced to flash defensively. Faker runs him down with the help of Khan, and Huni finds himself dead once again to SKT's top laner. The Riptail still not yet completed. Lee Syndrome, please! Clid's not going to pull the trigger this time round. Damonte steps forward and cannot secure the kill. SKT were ready, waiting, and looking to get the delayed ace here. Damonte's at risk of being dove, and it's just a matter of time. You have to feel. Khan 3-0-1, by the way. Shelly's going to be summoned behind the Tribush, and now a teleport's coming down too. Huni's rejoined the fight. And SKT,
they're not going to dive this, are they?
No, unfortunately not.
No, they should not dive this quick shot. That would be a very silly decision. But SKT just completely outplayed CG in that fight. A very clutch stopwatch from Effort to avoid the initial engage from Damonte. The fact that Clutch Gaming end up getting split apart, you just get to see the team fighting prowess of SKT.
Yeah, and this ward over the wall was so critical. The TP is in such a perfect place. Right as they're engaging, you're now going to be having this very strong Aatrox coming in behind the squad, and all of a sudden, there's no safe spot for Cody Sun to kite back to, because he was planning on kiting back into the area, utilizing the feathers and the AoE, and it just got completely shut down.
And you can see that Huni wasn't even relevant in the fight whatsoever. He got cut off while SKT was setting up this great collapse, and SKT, they were ready for the fight, they recognize it, and now they're just ballooning their lead even more.
And we're just going to go again, because Clutch, I don't know if they feel like they can give up another Infernal here. SKT already an enormous advantage, and if you give over a second free Infernal to them, it feels like your chances are really getting dim.
3,500 gold lead for SKT already. 2 Infernals, this one will be uncontested. And if you'll notice the scoreboard, everybody watching at home, the 2 solo laners, Khan and Faker, 3-0-1, 4-0-1 respectively. Faker's already looking, can he get the solo kill? Perfect execution was on cooldown. You have to think if that was available, that'd be another dead Huni.
Well, Faker with his Gunblade now completed is like, yeah, okay, I'm pretty strong now, 13.5 minutes into the game. He can solo kill anyone that he wants. Khan in a very similar position, yet to complete the Black Cleaver, but still feeling very strong, and they're just taking advantage of their massive solo lane leads to just funnel even more gold into them.
And look at the lack of vision here. You know, Clutch has no vision across this line, and that's why Damonte is not even feeling comfortable to actually farm out the wave. He was having to back off, seed these turret plates, because he didn't know if Clid was behind him, and he certainly is now.
Yes, he is. Damonte is just blown up under the tower. Now the Supreme Display of Talent gets Khan low, but not enough to find the kill. And now all of a sudden, Effort comes down. Faker's looking for the kill. He's got the ultimate available. Hemo Blake will be healing up Huni. Faker's looking over the tower. Takes another shot to the face. Huni stays alive a few seconds longer, and Faker's holding on to his ultimate.
Faker putting a lot of pressure down onto Huni, is looking to secure his first tower of the game. 6k gold lead for SKT. They have just so cleanly controlled this early game. They have outplayed CG multiple points, and while Clutch have found a single kill on the board, right now it feels like that the game is slowly slipping away from them.
I mean, this one feels like it's all over but the crying to me. Like this is so difficult for them to ever come back. You know, Faker being multiple levels ahead of both of the solo laners. Actually, Khan is as well. It's both 11 on SKT side to both 9 on Clutch's side, and they're just so monstrously behind. No one can answer either side, so you just become stuck in this problem where you have to send multiple members to either one, and you're never going to have the appropriate lane assignments to actually answer SKT.
And Clutch are kind of hoping for a miracle at this point. We talk often a lot about how they do have team fighting elements, but we're kind of clutching at straws because you can see, yeah. This kind of summarizes my point pretty much entirely, which is that
Exhibit A.
Yeah, it's all well and good saying like, oh, we have the scaling. It's completely irrelevant if you don't get to that point in the game as Fake is just continuing to snowball his lead across the map.
Don't worry, guys. We only need to hold on for 45 more minutes. I'm going to get there.
I'd like to hear some celebration music to that Akali animation where she's leading the blades above her head. It also felt a little personal, of course. Faker going after Huni, former teammates, taking him out under the tower. 5-0-1. Oh, this is just painful, observers.
He already is at 50% health. He overextends in the lane. Faker, with his ultimate and Q, uses the flash as well. Okay, so at first I was like, is it really personal? The fact that he would flash for that kill suggests, yeah, that one felt kind of personal.
Tough game thus far for Huni, but honestly a tough game really for all of Clutch, right? Damonte going for this relatively cheap build, he doesn't even have his first item yet. He's sitting on 4,800 gold. Faker's over 8,000.
Unreal. Talking about gold lead, at 15 minutes, SKT were up 5,961. It is the largest gold difference at 15 minutes of the group stage thus far.
Wow.
An extremely dominant early game. Just before we were going on camera, one of the things we were talking about was the mid game from SK Telecom and how they're not like your G2s, for example, that really just accelerate. What would you like to see from SKT in playing out this gigantic gold lead, and what would you expect from them?
Well, I think that with the comp that they have, sieging is difficult. Azale brought it up in the draft when you don't have an AD carry, sieging down these towers naturally becomes a lot harder, especially given that there is decent wave clear on the side of Clutch. So what SKT need to do is do exactly what they are doing, play on multiple lanes, split the map up, but then what you need to do is you actually need to push your vision line into the enemy jungle so that Clutch cannot enter there. This then gives you the freedom to move between your side lanes, and you can create numbers advantages to threaten dives. And you use your greater numbers and gold lead in order to force the enemy away from the towers so that you can secure it.
They're also getting the benefit of 3 straight Infernals, right? If this is something that Clutch feels like they may have to challenge, well, then SKT doesn't have to do a lot of work to actually get a team fight. And I think if you grab the 3rd Infernal here, which SKT is certainly going to set up for, then they can also look towards the Baron thereafter, set up their vision in that area, as you're talking about, Vedius, and you have fantastic engage in turn with the Gragas and the Lee Sin.
I'm looking at this Clutch composition right now as they are completing a couple of items. Faker happens to stumble upon Vulcan.
I think Vulcan's in a lot of trouble. Damonte's going to look for some damage. We'll find a small route into Faker. Now Huni not going to be able to flash over the wall, and Faker instead dashes away to safety. Decides against a 1-on-3. Still think he could have won it, but he manages to escape for now, and just so much burst damage.
So notice how in that time Khan has pushed out bot lane, and look at what Effort is doing. Setting up vision in the enemy jungle. This is really important when you're trying to play through these side lanes because again, it gives you access to easily move between the lanes. What we now want to see them do is collapse onto mid to set up the siege, or maybe just look for a pick.
Well, there's collapses everywhere. Damonte forced to flash. Here comes Cleared over the wall, kicks him into the space. And that was an easy final breath from Teddy.
Into space?
Yeah, I know.
That was a hard kick coming out from Cleared.
Absolutely was, and it was the 10th
Hasn't been
kill
skipping leg day.
for SKT. Hemoplague will heal up Huni, but it won't keep him alive long enough. Faker just chases him down for his 6th kill of the game. The mid lane tower's in trouble. Teddy's gonna dash away, throws up the wind wall, teleport being channeled, and that's the 4th tower. Vedius, you called it. Force Clutch away from the towers. Look for picks. Whether it's the tower or the jungle, irrelevant.
The thing is, though, is Clutch is walking into areas of the map that don't belong to them, which means that SKT can quickly find these collapses.
What does belong to them? That's their red buff.
Yeah.
The Nexus, maybe?
Yeah, about that. But what in the meantime, Khan took bot tower, they found a tower in mid, and this is how SKT do it. It's not about overforcing, it's just whenever you see someone in that position that they shouldn't be in, you're able to find that collapse, find that pick, and you immediately convert it into an objective.
These games are just so easy to close out because you need too many members to answer every side, right?
Yes.
You know, you said it's a 1v3 that Faker is kind of pushing them back. Then Khan comes on the other side. You have to run down to there. Now all of a sudden there's no one to answer Faker, and he's pushing in. You're out-leveled in really every role. Teddy is higher level than the solo laners really on Clutch right now.
And to make it worse, Yasuo and Aatrox can duo Baron. They have the ability to. Probably not yet. It depends. Once he completes his Infinity Edge, this duo is very prominent just because of how much damage and consistent damage that the Yasuo is able to output. So it's something that CG also have to respect.
Do they kill Faker, yes or no, Vedius?
No.
Okay, let's see what he does. 3-on-1, 4-on-1 as Cody's Sun comes down. The quickness is used already. Faker's got flash available. He dashes. He doesn't even use the flash. And Vedius, you are a god. You called it. Faker escapes. And SK Telecom, they start the Baron. That was Faker doing Faker things.
Yeah, they're going to grab the Baron, and I think they can close with this. They are monstrously ahead. Faker not even close to going down. He still had the Zhonya's, still had the flash, and Huni is in trouble.
He is indeed. He's going to use the W to stay alive for a while longer. Gets away from the barrel at least, and the Hemo Plague does literally nothing useful. 11,000 gold lead, triple Infernals, Baron, 4 towers to 0. And Faker and Khan are just styling on Kid.
And while that was a very cool play from Faker, it's really important to give credit to the rest of SKT because of how they're constantly setting up the map. They have great vision control around areas where they know they have greater numbers, which means that even if 4 members didn't go bot for CG, they can't answer the Baron because of how much control SKT have. So the moment they see where Clutch is, they get to make a decision, they get to punish them, and now they sit with an 11k gold advantage, 3 Infernal Drakes, and a Baron buff.
Oh.
Faker's going to be pushing on that bottom side here. No one even close to answering. All Clutch can do is just try to do these 3v1, 4v1 style plays, kill someone immediately, and hope that you can actually delay that way. But Faker now at the base. Teddy's here as well, pushing up mid lane. So SKT going to be knocking down turrets on all sides. Clutch just don't have the pieces to answer.
No, they don't. And even if they were to pick a fight, they're so far behind in every single metric. You need SKT to make mistakes that Clutch can punish. And the item disparity alone gives SK Telecom this margin of error that even if they play frivolously, even if they play carelessly, they can miss crucial abilities but still just outstat their opponents.
Yeah, at a certain point, you're just smacking them with your wallet, right? There's
Yeah,
no real way.
Yeah.
And in North America, we know a lot about this. It's a TL approach.
Oh man, all right, the tower goes down in the mid lane. Effort is forced to flash to safety. He almost goes up, but how much has been expended? Teleport is now completed. Not gonna find a knockup for SK Telecom. They look to siege the base. The inhibitor was broken in the bottom lane. Sorry, that was really good, Azael. And then it's gonna continue the pressure top. You can see Clid is ushered the minion wave forward, and he's taking the inner turret as well.
So SKT, oh, they're finding another pit.
They are indeed. Huni's going to buy some time. Wind wall goes up. That'll block any follow-up. The tower's going to put some damage onto Teddy, but not enough to do more. And now Khan, he's standing toe-to-toe, daring Clutch to fight him.
So SKT's clean game was ruined by Effort getting picked off in the mid lane. Of course, they do trade it for a bot inhib. They still have the Baron left, but I think that they need to reset on the map before they look to push any further. So we're likely going to see SKT backing off and then start playing through both top and mid. They know that with the gold advantage that they have and that CG need literally 5 members just to kill a support that... as Azael said, they can pretty much just walk their wallet down the mid lane.
I mean, SKT were 2 kills away from a perfect game. You know, they were just in such a good position. But it is beautiful to watch when a team is that far ahead and you see, you know, they punish one pathing decision in the jungle a few minutes ago. It leads to Baron. Baron hasn't even worn off yet. They've broken open the base. They've extended that lead even further. And SKT are just moments away from going undefeated in the first half of group.
The reason why I love watching it is because I think it just showcases how good SKT are at a lot of just the core basics of high-level League, which is just controlling areas of the map and responding to where the enemy is on the map. When you try to enter an area that doesn't belong to you, how easy it is for you to get punished. And it feels like that Clutch Gaming have not really been punished like this. And when they try to walk into areas of fog, when they don't expect players to be there, then all of a sudden SKT pounce, they find a pick, and they quickly convert it into something more.
SKT really are brilliant at that, and while this is not a slow game by any means, we're not even 25 minutes in, you're still seeing some of the differences between teams like SKT and G2, right? G2, with this sort of lead, is going to group 5 and dive you.
You were saying?
Exhibit B.
Exhibit B. I don't get a chance to say anything because Faker kills people too quickly. And I know I am going to take us off screen just for a second. Well, maybe after this fight, actually. SKT going to move into the base. Faker's coming over the wall. No ultimate available. That's the only benefit I can think of right now. As now Teddy continues to push forward. I'm waiting for an effort ulti into a Teddy ulti. Come on, do it.
You can see SKT, they want to go tutorial style. They have taken down 2 inhibitors. There's 1 left to take. Faker's going to go grab the wave, but to echo Azael's point, SKT feel a lot more controlled in their aggression. It feels like that it's not as chaotic as when you watch teams like G2 in their approach.
Oh, man.
Their solo laners just like to style on people, quick shot.
Absolutely the case. Effort and Teddy finally make the combination work. It just finds a single kill, and SK Telecom obliterate, decimate, dominate, obliterate and destroy Clutch Gaming. I ran out of words before moving towards expletives. SKT go undefeated in the first half of groups and make a statement with a 5 damage comp. Yasuo Gragas bottom lane, first time ever for Teddy, and it is going to make people question, do you run the risk of giving it to them again?
It's a tough choice because the game wasn't about the bot lane, but they certainly also didn't make any big mistakes, right? You know, there was nothing huge or glaring that you're saying, oh, well, Teddy messed up here or they messed up there. But this was about Faker, this was about Khan, and this really was absolute obliteration of Clutch.
And we talked a lot in draft about what we needed to see happen for Clutch, and unfortunately they just could not make it work. SKT did a fantastic job of punishing them, and for me, that was a large part of what we saw. It was constant punish. Every small mistake that Clutch made, SKT converted it